Welcome all. It's wonderful to be here with you today on this beautiful fall morning. My name is Mary Hawkins, and I am your service coordinator today. There are a lot of things going on at North Chapel this week, as always. A few announcements from Jenny Gelfin. Please take something home from the North Chapel today. The herb garden in the back of the church is ready for harvesting sage, tarragon, thyme, oregano, chives, and lavender. Jenny will be out back with clippers you can use or stop by during the week to pick some things up. Also, Sherry has brought bags of black-eyed Susan seeds to share with everyone, and they're in the foyer on the welcome table. Please pick one up. Ann Marinello has an announcement for us about the covenant groups.
Hi, everyone. This is just an invitation to invite whoever would like to join us for covenant groups. And we're starting them in November, and we'll run 7 of them through May. And they are once a month, and we're looking at times that would work for you. So there are these forms that are front and back that are also on our website, but I will pass them out. And they're about an hour and a half. And the covenant part of it is sort of a commitment to the group that you'll be coming. Nothing that's signed and sealed, but just an agreement that you will be there for as much as possible for those 7 months. So we welcome anyone who would like to join us to come. It's a very special kind of opportunity to learn to talk with each other from our hearts rather than an intellectual conversation. We plan different topics. So how many of you here have been in a covenant group? Look at that. So feel free to ask anyone here about them and what you felt about them. I'm going to leave these things at the back for you to pick up, or I can just pass them out to anyone who might want one, but I don't want to take up too much time, so I'll leave them at the back. So thank you for considering it.
Good morning. Yesterday I visited Peggy Cannonstein, who is sweetly sitting in the back there. She came up with a wonderful idea for a little pop-up fundraiser. She has carefully nurtured her amaryllis over the years, and she keeps potting them up and bringing them inside, and now she's run out of room inside, and so she gave me a whole bunch of them yesterday, all nicely potted up, and I have them out back under the pagoda thing by the river. And we've decided to price them between $25 and $15. There's one little one that'll be $15, so you better hurry if you want that one. I'll be out back there in case anyone would like to buy one today. Make a great gift for someone as well. There's a little mystery about the colors, but anyone that it happens to be, I'm sure would be lovely. Double pink, creamy white, or stripes.
Please take the time to read the many other announcements in the order of service today. If you're visiting, we would love to have you sign the guest book at the back of the church. In the spirit of this month's theme of navigating uncertainty, we will not be enjoying coffee hour together after today's service. Please turn off your cell phones. We will be humming our ingathering song. I will read a couple of verses for you, but just a reminder to everyone that we'll be humming instead of singing the words today. It's number 18, What Wondrous Love. What wondrous love is this, O my soul, O my soul? What wondrous love is this, O my soul? What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul? To love and to all friends I will sing, to love and to all friends I will sing. To love and to all friends who pain and sorrow mend, with thanks unto the end I will sing, with thanks unto the end I will sing.
I'm having one of those mornings where almost everything goes awry. I managed to leave my house without a mask, and then I managed to get one and then leave the car without a mask. And it's been so soothing to see your faces and to hear the voices of the choir. And to hear Mary's voice, which was calming to me. Thank you for that. There at the garden verge, I will bring you up in hope again. No more second thoughts will crowd you out of your desire to be loved, not touched. To be blameless and ecstatic again. This is all there is. And no knowledge is too much to bear in the end. Good morning and good Sunday. I hope that this new day finds you well. Welcome, dreamers and seekers of spirit, so bold and bashful in the quest. Welcome, wanderers and worshipers here to give their souls a rest. Welcome to the darkness and to the light. Welcome to the open and to the broken ones among us. To the blissfully imperfect souls who are just like you and just like me, blessed and beloved, held, whole, and honored by a love that knows no bounds, to all souls I say good morning. It's good to be together. I'm trying to put this as delicately as I can, said the young doctor. He was choosing his words carefully. He said, "How do I know that you won't kill me in my sleep?" He was trying to stay beyond the reach of the long arm of the law. The doctor was on the run, he was laying low, he was on the lam, as they say. He was a stowaway on the captain's ship. So the captain replied to the doctor, the young man who had stolen onto his vessel. He responded by saying, "You don't know me, son, but let me explain this to you. If I ever kill you, you'll be awake. You'll be facing me and you will be armed. As a rule, as a matter of principle, the captain was respectful of his adversaries. He believed in the integrity of the good and the honest fight. He was committed to that, given to that, led forward in life by it. It was a means by which his life had meaning. It was different for the young doctor. The nature of the good fight was not the same. For the doctor, the good fight had nothing to do with an adversary. He wasn't committed or given or led forward by a conflict with another human being. His mortal enemy was not a person. It was mortality itself. The doctor wanted to save all people from infirmity, from injury, and from pain. He was a healer. He wanted to rescue his every patient from the effects of what the captain was calling the good and honest fight. The captain, he had been a soldier, served for many years. He stood in harm's way, impassioned, defending us. He risked his life and limb, and he did that all by choice. He trained for it. He was good at it. He was comfortable with weapons, skilled in combat and defensive strategies. He was very different from the doctor. The doctor was a man of science. He was a master of the arts of medicine, and he knew nothing and cared nothing about the arts of war. He disdained them, actually, and so the captain's beliefs were lost on him. The doctor couldn't appreciate what the captain was saying. He didn't understand the values for which the captain was fighting. Confounded, the doctor responded to the captain's explanation about why he would not be killed in his sleep, after being assured that if it were ever to come to a killing confrontation, both men would be wide awake and armed. It was not comforting, so the doctor asked sardonically, "Are you always this sentimental?" "I had a good day," replied the captain. Newly pleased with himself, he was smiling slightly. He was leaning back in his chair. The captain's reply only further confounded the doctor. They were different men. The doctor just couldn't believe what the captain was saying, so he questioned the captain about the meaning of his words, about the very idea of a good day. Because the doctor had been with him throughout that day, and it had not seemed so good to him. He said, "You had a military force chasing you. You had to outrun criminals and savages. Half of the people on your ship have been shot or wounded, including yourself. And you're harboring a known fugitive." With all of this, the doctor thought to himself, how could anyone be having a good day? The young doctor just didn't understand, but the captain did. Maybe it was the advantage of his years, but the captain saw things differently. In the midst of misfortune, danger, and great uncertainty, the captain kept his cool. He kept a weather eye on the positive. He met the doctor's confusion with two clear thoughts. We are still sailing, and that's enough. This is the final passage of the pilot episode of a television show called Firefly. When I shared this passage with a friend and a ministerial colleague, she said that it reminded her of what the psalmists say in the Bible, the same psalmists who asked, "Where are you when I need you, Lord?" The psalmists remind us that in the presence of grace, we are borne away on angels' wings. We are lifted up by spirit, by truth, by fearless love. Psalm 91 translates as follows, reads as follows: "You who live in the shelter of the Most High, who abide in the shadow of the Almighty, will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faith is a shield and a buckler." Under wing we will find refuge. We will find solace and protection. This is what the psalmists are telling us. Another translation of this same passage reads as follows: "He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys in the lightness." The two translations are almost the same. They use different words to describe the same experience, the experience of finding refuge, solace, and protection. The same text translates into English as pinions in the first example and translates it as feathers in the second example. A pinion is the outer, I had to look this up. Does anybody know what a pinion is? I didn't know. Okay, so the pinion is the outer part of the bird's wing, right? Or the flight feathers. It is a more specific term, but its poetic gesture is the same. In both versions, we are borne away from suffering by flight. We are lifted up. Similarly, the same text translates as buckler in the first example and translates as rampart in the second example. I had to look this up too. These two are different things. A buckler is a handheld shield, usually metal, and a rampart is the protective outer wall of a castle. So not handheld, right? Here, two translations use two different words to describe different things, and still somehow the poetic gesture is more or less the same. We are divinely protected, kept safe in ways both great and small. In the opening passage of Firefly, the difference and the dissonance between the doctor and the captain was obvious. They experienced life so differently. They each saw in life different things. Their perspectives were dissimilar. Their points of view were not in sync. Their respective worldviews were clashing and crashing, and yet they found peace with one another. Over time, and properly nurtured, they found refuge, solace, and protection. Over time and properly nurtured. By grace, by luck, perhaps, by love, they were borne away on angels' wings and lifted up. What does all this mean for Unitarian Universalists? And for this particular faith of ours that is our inheritance, our non-dogmatic tradition that goes back hundreds of years. Non-dogmatic tradition. This means that there is no religious litmus test that functions as a cost of admission. We don't pay a spiritual price for our belonging. Unitarian Universalism does not require confessions of denominational faith. Many different religious paths lead us to places like North Chapel. Many roads lead to where we stand right now. We are the current carriers of a faith that is centuries long in the making and ours to make today. It belongs to us in this way, preparing the good way forward for those who will come tomorrow. At Unitarian Universalist churches and fellowships and meeting houses, all across the country and around the world, this is the case. There is no litmus test. Ours is a living faith and is a living tradition. It lives in us, it lives in me, and it lives in you, which is why the hymnal is named as it is. This unifies us, even though we all find our own ways to the sacred, guided perhaps by Christianity or by Catholicism or by the Judaism or the Buddhism or the agnosticism, the paganism, or even by the atheism of our upbringings, traveling from churches, from temples, and from synagogues and mosques of our youth, traveling even from nature, from the church of the great outdoors, we gather together as a people. I find that beautiful and revolutionary. Ours is a truly revolutionary love, and we are not alone, although we do it in our own way. I met a man in church one time. This was back in North Carolina. Forgive me if I've told this story before. I think it's hilarious. He said that he had formerly been a member of the Riverbend Baptist Church. And I said that I was unfamiliar with that church. He said that's what I practiced before I got interested in Unitarian Universalism. I had never heard of the Riverbend Baptists, but I was new to North Carolina, so I had no problem, no shame in asking him about the history of his tradition. What is a Riverbend Baptist? I said to him plainly, and he smiled at me. And he made a casting gesture. And he pretended that he was trying to catch a fish. The pin dropped. He hadn't gone to church formally in any way. He just went fishing on Sunday mornings. I liked that guy. I don't remember his name, but I remember that I liked him. We use different paths in life to arrive at the same place sometimes, and that's the richness of this. There is no right way to enter in. So it is that we gather here together now, in conflict and in consensus, held whole and honored by a love that knows no bounds. I say this each time, but it's fresh for me each time I say it. I say it ritually. I hope it doesn't bother you, but it's meaningful to say certain things again and again. I love the word consensus. Consensus has deep meaning for me. The word is defined in a way that is mundane. It means agreement. But it is actually, in practice, much more than that. Has anyone ever practiced consensus in a group? Was it easy? Was it quick? No, it wasn't easy or quick. Consensus is a process of egalitarian decision-making, and there's a lovely explanation that goes as follows. Consensus does not mean unanimity, nor does it mean voting where choice is determined by a majority over the minority. Majority voting can make controversial decisions much more quickly, but this says nothing about the wisdom or the morality of that decision. Where the majority rules, the majority seems infallible, and that's not true. And the minority's dissent is often steamrolled and made to seem irrelevant, and that's not true either. Christianity wouldn't exist without a minority view, right? Neither would the Grateful Dead. Minority is forced to go along with whatever the majority decides, no matter how it affects them or contradicts their convictions. Consensus rejects this kind of dualistic either-or choice, and it opens itself to infinite possibilities. Consensus is based on the principle that every voice is worth hearing and every concern is justified. This rhymes a little bit with the first principle of Unitarian Universalism, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Continuing. Consensus is more than chasing compromise and finding solutions that everyone can live with. It's a process of finding creative solutions better than the original proposal. Ideas build one upon the next, generating new ideas until the best decision emerges. Consensus, done right, creates an atmosphere in which conflict is desirable. My rides are here. Consensus done right creates an atmosphere in which conflict is desirable. Encouraged, supported, and resolved cooperatively with respect and creativity, rather than avoiding and dismissing and diminishing and denying the inevitable. There is conflict between us, and we have to work that out. We grow when we try, not only when we do. Lastly, consensus also recognizes that decisions are not the end in and of themselves. Decision-making is a process, from proposal to the actual implementation, for cultures and for groups that value consent and cooperation rather than coercion to follow through. Consensus has been the practice. I love this explanation. I love that it's peaceful and egalitarian. I like that it's accessible, that it applies to both doctor and captain alike. It's useful to everyone. It offers a pathway out of narrow thinking. It lets the mind become more free and more creative. It helps us to imagine something better. It gives the soul time and the protection that it needs to flower into a world that is all brand new. Consensus means that we get a little deeper about so many things in life, real and meaningful things. When we don't get deep enough, we end up getting ourselves in a bit of trouble. So we need to get deep, and consensus gets us there. Talking to one another gets us there. Listening to one another. Being silent in one another's presence. This gets us there. Singing, dancing, being bold. In these ways, we can get deep about how we live and how we love in life. We can get deep about our ways of living, and about how we justly organize our communities, how we organize our economies. When we don't do this, our economies begin to organize us. The commercial economy, the cultural economy, the moral economy, if you will. In many ways, these economies are already sorting us in unseen ways. They already organize us in ways that we're not always conscious of, and we need to be mindful of this, because on their own they will not organize us, body and soul, for the common good. On their own, they can be selfish and irresponsible. They can foster fantastic wealth and desperate impoverishment. Oftentimes, we the people, are asked to be compassionate, and we are expected to be compassionate, generous with our treasure. We are expected to give. We are asked to be charitable and mindful of those who are less fortunate. But when economies become unwieldy, they cannot be tempered by charity. Individual compassion is not enough and can never be enough. It's not supposed to be. Because sometimes issues are so deep and so serious that they cannot be addressed by tending to the individual leaves of the tree, or even by tending to the lower branches. Doing so, however fervently, however passionately, however earnestly, does not get us to the root of the problem. It only distracts our efforts and leaves us nowhere closer to the truth. Individual compassion is not the tool that is useful for solving the complexity of the problems that we face. It's not supposed to be. Collective compassion is the tool that we need, and consensus gets us there. Creative compassion is true compassion, and Martin Luther King reminds us of this. He reminds us that true compassion is not charity. King said, true compassion is more than flinging a coin at a beggar. True compassion comes to see that the edifice which produces beggars is broken and is in need of restructuring. That's where we were back then in the early 1960s. That's where we were back then, and that's largely where we still are today. We've been stagnant, and it drives us all a little crazy sometimes. And we forget about the basic values of equity, equanimity, and justice. It's gotten a little bit worse in the past few years, and I'm beginning to understand why. Maybe we are. Last Sunday, we talked about the Facebook whistleblower, the courageous woman who created such a stir, the one who addressed Congress earlier this month by saying, my name is Frances Haugen. I used to work at Facebook. I think Facebook has the potential to bring out the best in us. But I'm here today because I believe that Facebook products harm children, stoke division, and weaken democracy. Hogan put a lot of things in motion over the past few weeks, and others have now joined her in the ranks. A woman who works for an organization about stopping online hatred said, here's what's so insidious about how Facebook and other social media platforms earn their revenues. They are collecting and extracting our personal data. They are actually targeting us, targeting disinformation, targeting hate. I don't know that most people understand that we are the product of Facebook, she said. She said, they are selling us to their advertisers. So without even truly understanding how this works, we are being used, end quote. passively and unwittingly, we become a product by way of our own need to connect with one another. Actively, we are encouraged to become involved with a hate-for-profit, lie-for-profit online business model that is doing so much damage to the common good. It's hard to be vulnerable on Facebook. It's hard to fail. It's hard to be insecure. I have a colleague in Wisconsin who recently posted about a chronic condition that she suffers in her life. It doesn't present with physical features, so no one knows it's there. But she's always tired, no matter what happens. And she's a young woman, she's vibrant, a young mother. So people constantly tell her that she should just get some more sleep. Or they encourage her to become a vegetarian. Or they ask her to meditate. But sitting with difficulty and challenge is hard for us. We try to escape this in any way that we can. The online platforms know that anger is better for business. They actually calculate it in what they call eyeball hours. The longer we stay online, the more likely we are to buy something. So by whatever means they can, they encourage that kind of participation. Facebook operates in that way. And this is a quote: "Facebook is optimizing for content that gets engagement or reaction. But its own research is showing that content that is hateful, that is divisive, that is polarizing, its own research is showing that it is easier to inspire people to anger than it is to other emotions." Of course it is. Social media is doing this because it's an advantageous business model. Of course they are. Social media is an extractive commercial enterprise. That's why it's free to us. And why is this surprising us? Mark Zuckerberg is now the focus of a trial these days, but not because of how well his company has done. False advertisers, bad politicians, and mediocre ministers, probably myself included, although I hope not, have been doing this since time immemorial. But there are two major differences. Rarely have advertisers, politicians, and ministers of any stripe held the kind of sway that social media has claimed on our hearts and minds. And never before has a private company or a set of private companies been able to scan the digital landscape of the private mind. Mark Zuckerberg cannot truly know what he's doing because it's never happened before. The trials of Mark Zuckerberg and Frances Haugen and Facebook, and the trials of social media writ large, are not about justice in the main. They are about the relative guilt and innocence. They're not about the relative guilt and innocence of the individuals or even their companies. These are not legal trials, but rather they are spiritual ones. Business practice in this kind of an economy goes after the jugular every time. What we receive as American culture is largely based on the success of this model. The problem is that this model is based on the lowest common denominators, and it is highly dismissive of our highest human values, the values of equity, equanimity, and justice. The online platforms don't encourage us to see beauty and to see dignity and to see grace in those who have opposing points of view. In these values, the values of equanimity, equity, and justice, the values of integrity and mutual respect, we can all find refuge and solace and protection. We can easily restore what has been torn away from us. We can do that in a blink of an eye. Now, I'm not a fan of Mark Zuckerberg, and he is not an enemy to me. At least part of the enemy that I see is within me. At least part of the enemy is my own loneliness and my own desire to be known, and of course, my desire to be loved. I want to be loved. That's part of the reason why I have 2,161 Facebook friends at present, most of whom I do not know at all. If we decide to, we could put social media up on the witness stand and go all Perry Mason on it, right? Pelting it with penetrating questions and forcing it to confess to its sins. We could find social media guilty and send it all to prison. We could lock it up and throw away the key if we so choose, if that becomes the voice of the majority. We could throw social media to the lions, and that would make for brilliant and spectacular entertainment. But we would be forced to pretend that we are not also judging ourselves as well. I'm disappointed with the state of Facebook, with their choices, with their extractive practices. I'm disappointed with the state of commercial culture in general, but I don't think that it's useful for social media to ask itself the question, how do I know that you won't kill me in my sleep? The psalmists speak about the feather wings of our protection. They speak about solace, about refuge, and they speak to us of peace. They did not vote to do this. It wasn't to the victors go the spoilers situation. They did not depend on a business model. They sang and they danced and they prayed and they looked inside themselves and they made choices together, consensually, for the benefit of all. This is what corporation originally meant. As faith book friends, and not Facebook friends, but faith book friends, we are in beloved community, and beloved community, I believe, is the original social media. We can soften into the challenges that are before us, come what may, and there, at the Garden Verge, we can pull ourselves up in hope again. No more second thoughts will crowd us out of our desire to be loved and not touched. To be blameless and ecstatic again. This is all there is. And no knowledge is too much to bear in the end. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
We are so glad that you joined us today. After a summer of lovely outdoor services, the chill fall air has encouraged us to come back inside. It was lovely to be together in the sanctuary today. For safety's sake, we will continue to wear masks, sit in socially distanced way, use our 2 new air filters, and keep the windows open as long as the weather permits. This fall, we will offer an expanded video of our Sunday services on YouTube as we learn about and discuss other ways of making our Sunday services available. We'd love to get to know more about you. You have gotten to know us through watching our YouTube videos. Now we would like to get to know you. We understand that distance and health concerns may prevent you from joining us in person, but would you be willing to let us know who you are, where you live, and how long you've been watching our Sunday services? I hope that you will send us an email introducing yourselves to us to office@northchapelvt.org. You can also find this address on our North Chapel website at the bottom of the landing page. And while you're there, we invite you to check out the Connect and News and Events sections to learn of all the opportunities and activities that are available on Zoom. We would love to have you join us. Thanks for coming.